the voices that propel us, stories of justice, action, and community. A space where justice meets action and community voices rise. Each episode, we bring you stories from the front lines, changemakers, disruptors, and everyday heroes who are building a more just, equitable, and liberated world. This is more than a podcast. It's a call to listen, learn, and move together. You were just listening to music from the incredibly talented Stephen Kong. You can find him on Spotify and Bandcamp. Today we have with us Monique Pham-Louie. Monique is a social innovation strategist and proud AmeriCorps alum with roots in social work, public sector engagement, and systems change. She leads global place-based efforts at a major tech company, mobilizing cross-sector ecosystems to advance digital equity, economic mobility, and community resilience. Her previous work includes designing and co-leading nationally recognized programs like OneTen Skills First Career Pathways and inclusive leadership initiatives for underrepresented talent. Monique is also the co-author of the children's book Dunder and Munster in the Rescue and creator of the viral stop-motion video Pregnant to Baby in 90 Seconds with over 30 million views. Proof that impact can happen everywhere, from boardrooms to bedtime stories. Well, hi, Monique. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'm really excited that you're here to actually launch this podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you. And yeah, I think you have just such a powerful story, and I'd love to just delve into that and just like the kind of impact that you made in community. So let's just start off with your story. Can you share the personal journey that brought you into this work and how being named after a social worker helped to shape your why?
Yeah, sure. But before we dive into that, I just want to
Mhm.
say thank you so much for holding space for stories like this. You know, AmeriCorps, we talked about it earlier, but it's something that is just so meaningful part of my life and a big way of how it really shaped how I show up in this world, which is where we met. So just being here, it really means a lot. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, no,
But
it really means a lot to me too. And like I always say, Public Allies is like family, and I feel like, it's always something special that I go back to. So thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. But to answer your question, yeah, a lot of what drives me, it comes from being an AmeriCorps alum, and from growing up watching the people around me, especially my mom and community who had to work twice as hard for half the opportunity. And so I got to see early on that systems around us weren't built for families like mine. And so that just lit a fire in me, not to serve, but how do I help fix the systems themselves, even if that started like simply just by empowering folks with the right connections, the right resources, sorry, and the right knowledge. But to share a little bit about my background, during the pandemic, I landed in a role that I was able to reconnect with my social justice roots and was able to build initiatives from the ground up, drawing on my background in public sector and social work engagements, where I got to launch workforce development efforts that were focused on skills first hire programs for more diverse representation in tech. The other one was around aspiring leader programs to grow diverse leadership pipelines. And now I get to lead place-based work in social innovation. And so it's really been a pinch me journey, doing good while aligning that to business strategy. And I love that the values that shape my family's journey are the same ones that I get to bring into this work, where I don't just get to build communities that serve, but also open doors. And so I think it's just a really great combination of being able to combine lived experience and systems level change. And that's what has really kept me moving.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. And I think something that I want folks to learn, I think from listening to this podcast too, is just to see that you can make change in your community. You don't have to like have that like role at a community organization, or, you don't have to like be on a megaphone in front of like a bunch of people. You can just do like small acts of kindness, and that those kind of things also like make a difference. So yeah, thank you. I did. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you please tell us how does your personal story shape your professional values today?
Yeah, I feel that everything I do now, it's deeply tied to where I came from. I was raised by a single immigrant mom on welfare, experienced homelessness. First in my family to graduate from high school, college, and stepped into corporate spaces where I was often the only one in the room. So finding community, it was a survival skill. And I'll share a story, but my mom, she came to the US with nothing but hope for a better future. And she was the only surviving refugee in her group, over 100 folks who had fled war-torn Vietnam. And so we were able to find our footing because of the community that stepped up for us. And one of my earliest memories is walking the streets at night with my mom, carrying our belongings in a trash bag
Mm.
until a kind family actually took us in when we had absolutely nowhere to go. Another story is my social worker, or my mom's social worker, who helped my mom navigate her very first hard years when she came to the US. And I was named after her and lucky that we were united. But her impact, it reminds me that the true community rooted
Yeah.
support, it plants the seeds for future that we might not yet have ever even imagined for ourselves. And so that's the lens that really keeps me grounded. It reminds me that leadership, it's about responsibility to others. And that's just been very, very key to me.
Yeah, no, thank you
Or
for sharing that. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And actually, I have a similar story too. So, when I was going through high school, I was going through a lot of just different things with my family. And during that time, I had like a lot of mentors, a lot of my high school teachers who helped to uplift me and encouraged me to like apply to UC Berkeley. And I didn't think I'd get in because I didn't think I got smart enough or anything. But like having those mentors helping to propel me, I think made me realize in my adult years, like, how powerful it is to like give back. So like paying it forward. So I think, yeah, also my story, I think I want to pay it forward to other people just because like hopefully like people can take the kindness that we show to them and like show it to other people. That's at least what I hope for people.
love that. Yeah, just having those mentors. And I was very close to my teachers, and I still keep in touch with my seventh grade teacher.
That's cool.
It's because, yeah, it's amazing. It's been decades already, and we still keep in touch. But I think it's because mentors and those
Mhm.
folks in our lives, they saw something that we didn't see in ourselves. And I think that's just so important.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think also like with like public allies, people pushing me forward. Like I would have never imagined having like a public facing role, like a director of recruitment. So it's just like, yeah, I think, I think it's beautiful work that you do too, like just uplifting others and helping them to see their potential too. So was there like a moment or experience that sparked your commitment to justice and innovation? I know you talked a lot about like what you went through when you were younger, but was there ever that moment that, helped move you in that direction as like a career?
Yeah. I think it was after I joined AmeriCorps. I felt like that was really life-changing for me. I felt like it was life-changing for me personally and professionally, where I was able to see how important empathy played a role in all of that. It's not like we were trying to solve world hunger or anything like that, but we were working with the community, and we got to be on the same, what was it called? Like a
TSP,
team.
Team Service Project. Wait,
There we go.
what was the name though? I forgot our name of the, oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
No, that's,
Heck a
oh,
lot.
I can't believe I blocked. Yeah, no, that's right though. TSP though.
Forgot we had names. Yeah. I remember there was a team called Ubuntu. But
Uh-huh.
yes, just being able to work with the community and listen to them and showing up and making those small shifts, it really mattered. And that still guides me in the work that I do today. And it brings me back to a lot of my stories are about my mom. And I think it's because being able to see what she's gone through when she came to America, facing the unimaginable, then on top of it, culture shock and racism, but still found a way to build a life from nothing. And she leaned into community, was very resourceful, and always found a way to learn from others. And that perspective, it grounds me. And because I feel like there's just so many untold stories
Mhm.
that deserve to be seen, just like what you're doing with this platform, just building space where voices can lead. And
Right.
so when I had the opportunity to co-lead a major initiative for my company, I started by listening. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'm going to start by
Yeah.
listening to the communities, to the people that are running similar programs within and outside of my company, and to the folks who are closest to the work.
Mm.
And from that, I assessed and try to see, okay, what are some of the common barriers that keep showing up? What are we missing? And how can I use my position to hold the company accountable so that they're
Mm.
walking the walk on equity? It's not just a check the box, but
Yeah.
let's make sure that they actually follow through on it. And so, whether it's customers or the learners or community partners, I felt like their lived experience, that's the data that we can't ignore. And so, the best solutions, it comes from co-building with the people that are most impacted. I felt like we had the chance to do that too, and that was an amazing experience.
Yeah. No, totally. And yeah, I love how you also like focus on storytelling in your work. Like me too. I really love like just hearing people's stories because just looking at the surface of you don't know what kind of things people have been through. So, I was talking about like being more vulnerable in my sharing about like mental health. And this one guy actually reached out to me. He was just saying like, yeah, when I met you, you looked just like a normal Asian like me. But and then he talked how he was like struggling with like a lot of mental health issues himself. And it just like, I think especially like Asian Americans having that like stereotype of model minority and stuff. You need to like dig deeper to know our stories. But yeah, I think there's a lot of hidden stories that we just don't know until you actually sit down and talk with someone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even one of the programs that I led for ours, it was focused on the Asian population. Based on their
Mhm.
study, they found that many of the Asian girls had high mental health issues, and they were going undetected because, in spite of all the challenges and that they were going through, they were still doing well in school.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I remember reading something like that in college too. I don't know if the statistics has changed, but I think it was like Asian Americans had a very low rate of going to like mental health professionals. But at the time, Asian American women had one of the highest suicide rates though. So even though they're not talking about it or seeking help, like it's definitely still an issue that, needs to be addressed and people need to get the support that they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, so you blended social work, innovation, and systems change throughout your career. What moments or mentors helped you to connect these dots?
Yeah, I had so many mentors throughout my
Mhm.
career. I've just been very fortunate. Um, but I specific to social impact or just in general?
Yeah, just in general.
In general.
Mhm.
So, when I made the career leap from social work to high tech, and I
Mhm.
remember I was just so terrified. Um, because everyone in the room was so much smarter, had all these fancy degrees, were executive level folks. It's like, what do I even bring to the table here?
Wow.
But that mentor always took the time to sit down and help me learn all the technology because I had to speak about our company's technology to different customers and all of that. And I was not a technical person at all, but for them to take the time to do that and get to know my energizers and my strengths. So I remember my first week. Um, he knew that I was very passionate working with the youth population and I used to work with middle school girls. And so that week, there was actually a group of middle school kids coming in. So I had the chance to talk about our company's technology to middle school kids. So for him to take the time to understand, okay, let's take something complex and break it down into simpler terms. That's a great way to train her. That's a great
Wow.
way to also connect with her passions too. And so I was like, oh, wow, there's a way where I can connect technology and
Yeah.
also create awareness and for other, girls for middle school girls to be more aware of the different roles in STEM. Because I actually thought that I had to be an EA or an engineer to work in tech.
Yeah.
So Yeah, a huge, huge difference for me. But
No,
yeah.
that's really cool. And that goes to show you never know where life will end up. Yeah, because early in my days, like I thought I was going to be an engineer and design like like be an Imagineer at Disneyland and create like animatronics and stuff. And now I'm like, working in nonprofit. But it's
Oh,
it's really cool
cool.
to see yeah
I didn't
how
know that
everything.
about you.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, no, because going back to what I was saying, like I thought I wasn't smart enough to get into UC Berkeley, so my plan was go to Cal Poly Pomona because I went to a small high school called iPoly on the campus, and we automatically got into the school, and they're like a feeder program for Imagineers into Disneyland. So yeah, that was a good thing to be. And when I went to UC Berkeley, people are like, "No, computer science is too hard. You don't want to do that right away." So I took breadth requirements or general ed, and yeah, took sociology classes and ethnic studies classes, and found my new love and passion, and went to community work that way.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, as you were talking, you're deeply involved in designing systems that center and dignify community voice. What does justice look like to you in the context of innovation in tech? If you could just talk more about that.
It's a big question. I think it starts with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we need to start having the conversation in order to get there.
Yeah.
There was a program that I led during the pandemic, and I felt that in order for us to make sure that this program is successful, that was focused on skills first hire, we needed to make sure that the
Mm,
systems around it and the network was there to ensure long-term career success for our hires that were being brought in. And so one of the things that I really pushed for was mandating inclusive leadership training.
mm,
Um, And that was something initially there was pushback, but then we started noticing in the first cohort there were a lot of challenges that came up. And so that was my justification there. It's like these are all the folks who are experiencing some
mm,
challenges. This is the reason why we need to make sure we mandate it. And it was simply just gathering a group of folks. And this was all during the pandemic. So it was remote, it was easy to do it
yeah.
country, getting folks in a room, but having a structured format to bring in a guest speaker, an executive to share their own perspective, but also having conversations around that. On what inclusive leadership looks like. What are the challenges that are they're experiencing? What are they seeing? Even questions on, I honestly don't understand pronouns. Like
Oh,
asking
okay.
questions and feeling like this is a safe space for me to
Yeah.
ask those questions where I'm afraid of being judged on my own team. And I think it really needed to start with that because
Yeah.
going from social work, I felt like everything that we heard around DEI, I was like, that's stuff that we talked about in AmeriCorps, social work in the community for a long time. It's nothing brand new. So finally, for it to start happening, having that conversation in tech, I felt like it was
Yeah.
newer. So having that space to not feel judged, to learn best practices from each other, the lessons learned, and having self-awareness of where am I at in terms of equity and what can I do to 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 help make changes? What can I do as a leader, but also what can I do to empower my team so that they are also part of building an inclusive team? Because it shouldn't just be on the leader. So I think it really
Yeah.
truly starts with the people.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful that you're creating those spaces that people feel comfortable like talking about those kind of things. Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And can you walk us through a time when you saw community strengths directly inform or reshape a project's direction? So using that community voice to like help shape where you're going?
Let me think about that one. I think the previous example that I shared, that one is an example right there
Yeah.
because we were trying to do, I think there was a little bit of hesitancy to push for something like that because
Okay.
like asking so much from the business, we're asking so much from the hiring managers already. So this is like another thing. But then when we saw that this is something that could impact our brand and also um impact I mean everything.
Yeah.
It's important that we brought in the right folks and understand how crucial and important it was. And so it went hand in hand, making sure that it wasn't having the support system and the resources available to our new hires and our learners that were going through our career pathway, but
Mhm.
also the folks that were involved, the mentors, the volunteers, the hiring managers. They also needed toolkits and resources and support systems as well as they were going along on this journey too.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And yeah, like we were talking, I think it's really cool like how you're helping to build the equity and moving in that right direction. So, what does it look like to align large internal teams around equity goals? And what have you learned about sustaining that alignment? And yeah, have you had any like pushback or anything when you've tried to yeah, put these initiatives through?
Yeah, it just all depends who to really. And
Yeah,
so that's why it's so important to find out who are going to be your champions in this
yeah.
work. I was very fortunate that the work that I did, we got amazing sponsors, a great team that truly understood
Mhm.
and had the lived experience and the passion. Even though there may have been differences, I felt like we were always working towards the same goal and we always wanted
Mm.
the best outcome for our learners. We were always doing what's best for the business, but most importantly, for advocating what was best for our learners. And that was always number one. And then I've also been on the other side of things where it's like, okay, this is a great model. Let's see how we can replicate it for something
Yeah,
else. Not having the right leaders from the very beginning, you see a huge difference night and day. And so a lot of time was spent on the politics, not doing this for the right reason. It just went around in circles. So having those
yeah.
key champions from the very beginning is just so key.
Oh. No, that's really awesome. And I think it's really important also not to just have representation or like tokenism, but to actually have like real representation. So with that, what does inclusive leadership mean to you? Just be beyond a representation.
Yeah, making space for others to lead and being
Mhm.
willing to like go control.
Mhm.
I've had team members tell me, I've never done this before, Monique, and I'd say, neither have I. Let's learn this together. And I think that openness builds trust. It's okay not to know everything, right? And
Yeah.
as a leader, I think it's my job to understand what energizes each person, not just their skills, but their passions and growth goals, and just create a space where they feel safe, bringing their full selves to work. And like, for example, many of the folks on my team, they were introverts or they're introverts who prefer to work behind the scenes,
That's cool.
don't want the limelight. And so, but I saw it as my responsibility to make sure their contributions don't go unnoticed,
Yeah.
and to shine that light on their work, even if they weren't the loudest in the room.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've just been very lucky to have the best leaders I worked for to model that for me. And I've carried it forward in my own leadership style. But to answer your question, I think inclusive leadership, it's not just about who's in the room, but also how do
Yeah.
we listen? How do we share power? And then also how do we create an environment and space where people feel safe and valued enough to lead in their own way?
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. And it's just also like learning about quiet leadership. So I think it was actually in Public Allies when I actually embraced like, wow, I could actually be a leader too, because I always had this like image of what it means to like lead people. And um yeah, I think it's just like you don't need to be like loud to actually be a leader because even Public Allies, they say everyone leads. And like I think that really like struck with me. And I think that's why when I was working with the allies, those are the folks that I tended to draw towards to like the quiet leaders because like I saw that and just helping them to build more confidence in themselves. And I think that's really cool that you're helping, to pull that leadership out of people too. Yeah.
Thank you.
So how do you approach inclusive leadership in practice, especially when supporting emerging leaders from historically excluded communities?
Um, I think it goes back to just taking the time to understand folks' strengths, what they're bringing to the table. I think that's just so key. We talk a lot about imposter syndrome. I mean, I definitely had that when I first joined the company, where like, what am I doing here? I still
Mhm.
have it. And I make sure to acknowledge that and bring in other folks who look like them. So part of that program that I built out, I wanted to make sure there was a speaker series and bringing in folks that are from diverse backgrounds and different groups so that, I mean, I know for me, I barely saw any women in my field, but when
Right.
I saw other females, it made a huge difference in being able to relate to the challenges and the stories that they share. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not just me.
Yeah.
So having those the industry leaders and different folks come in
Mhm.
to share their stories and their challenges and how they navigated those challenges. That really resonated to the different communities for them to be able to also find their future mentors
Yeah.
and potential sponsors. So that was a start there, just being able to create an opportunity where they have access
Yeah.
to different. I think that's just so key. I know for working remotely, it's so challenging. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know who to reach out to.
Right.
So me, I'm a natural actor, so I'm always trying to learn, okay, what's key, what's top of mind for you, and then I will bring in those folks to speak on that. And they're like, wow, this is something
Yeah.
really needed. Or, I never saw myself in that field. Like I had a project manager who always wanted to go into cybersecurity, bringing in someone to share that. I was like, oh, I want to learn more about that. So just being able to make that connections and helping folks see what are the different opportunities out there because they don't know
Yeah.
what they.
Oh, that's really cool. And just from your time working there, like have you noticed like shifts or like just movement in like the positive direction though, just in terms of like what you've seen I from like where you started to where you're at right now?
It's such a big company, but
Okay.
it's amazing. I do see, keep in touch with a lot of folks. So the folks that have kept in touch with me or I've kept in touch with,
Yeah.
when I hear about the work that they're doing now, they're still at the company. I think that right there is
Wow.
a time to like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're still doing great work, or either that the role has expanded or they've got promoted,
Yeah.
or even higher positions than me, which is fantastic. So I think it's going well for a lot of folks.
Wow, no, that's cool to hear. And I'm glad to hear, you've been a part of that movement too. So, I want to talk a little bit more about like your other projects like personally, because yeah, I think so outside of your systems work, you've gone viral with the stop motion video and co-authored a children's book, which I thought was really cool. I still got to get the children's book. I didn't notice it until I was researching you, but I got to get that too. So what role does creativity and joy play in your leadership and justice work?
Oh, I love just always tapping into different ways that allows me to be creative. So that just to share a little bit about that story. During my maternity leave, my husband and I, we were not getting any sleep at all with our first child. So we were like, let's create a children's book. And at that time, I think my husband, he was dabbling around with Kickstarter. For folks who don't know, it is a creative platform for different folks to come on there. It's a crowdfunding platform for creative projects. And so we launched our program on there and or I mean not our program, our product, because we always wanted to have some kind of product.
Yeah.
So always interested in that. The second thing that I was always interested was design thinking, creative marketing. So it was just like a great way for me to have an outlet. I wasn't working. I was off for like 6 months, which I'm very fortunate I was able to do that. But I was just like, oh, this is such a fun and creative way to build skills that I wanted to work on more. And
Yeah.
so that was one of the ways. And I was able to tie that into my work. And um, I encourage my team members, like, that's why it's just so important to understand, like, what are your energizers? What do you like to do outside of work? And so,
Yeah.
with the introverts that I shared with you, like, one of them is very passionate about doing community work and connecting people. And so, I wanted to make sure that I tapped into more of that, the community building
Yeah.
and engagement, community engagement. So, just being able to tie in their passions outside of work and how we can bring that in so that I don't want to force them to do something that there's definitely going to be parts of your job that you're not going to like to do, but it's
Yeah.
even better to be able to tie in some of that into the work that you do.
No, that's cool. And can you talk more about the stop motion video for those who aren't like familiar with it? When I saw it, I thought it was like absolutely creative and I loved watching it. But yeah, if you want to describe what it is.
Yeah, so my husband, he took a picture of me every single day, a profile view of me, so you can see my stomach growing throughout, but then in the background, it's changing. It's constantly
Mhm.
changing. And then we took a lot of different trips. And so I would just, yeah, it was a really fun project just to be able to capture such a special moment because I feel like all of
Yeah.
that just happened so quickly and to be able to capture it with my first son and my second
Yeah.
one, it was just really, really special because looking back, especially with, I mean, every new parent experiences this, but you
Yeah.
get no sleep. So it's just
Yeah.
all a blur. So I get pictures and videos to look back on. It's like, oh, that happened. But yeah.
No, that's so cool. When I saw that, I thought that was so awesome because I think it was I think I might have been pregnant or something. Like I remember seeing it after I think I was pregnant. But when I was pregnant, my my daughter's dad and we were thinking about doing something similar. And I think he took pictures of me every day too, or every other day. I don't know, it was every week or something. We're like, yeah, we should put it all together. And it just never happened. And I think they're like photos somewhere. And when I saw your video, I'm like, she did what I was thinking about doing. So I
Oh, no
thought that was so cool. Yeah, because I have some of the pictures. I think they got lost somewhere, but like yeah, I had the profile views too of when I was starting to and then when closer to when my daughter was born too. But yeah, I thought that was cool that you had that dedication because I think that takes a lot of dedication to actually take a picture every day though and not forget about that in the busyness of what you're doing.
I didn't take a picture every day, but I don't think I'm winning all the pictures.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was just a really fun project for us to work on, and I had the most fun picking the music. Like I went through so many of them. It's like, what's going to evoke a lot of emotion? It was a way of like also the storytelling, which I love to do.
Yeah,
How do you do it with like images and music and all of that?
right, right. Yeah. And I think that just resonates with a lot of people. I think even in my writing that I'm doing too is like trying to make it relatable to people and like take out like academic words and stuff. But it's like, I think it's just relating to people just on a human level. And I think that's what like really resonates and moves people. So, it's really cool that you're doing that. So, how has your family inspired or grounded your work in community and resilience?
Yeah, my mom, she plays a huge part in a lot of it. Just being able to see what she's gone through and just literally starting um, building a life from nothing. I think that has been something that continues to stand out for me. I know that when I made the leap into high tech, um, it was such a struggle. I literally cried every single day. It was so tough
Yeah. Yeah.
in sales. Um, but I remembered how it was for my mom. I think it was because she was a peddler, and she started working when she was 5. And so she
Yeah.
always had that entrepreneur spirit and was very resourceful. And I mean, over there, she was living in poverty and had to take care of her family. And she I believe that because of her entrepreneur spirit and she had to do what she had to do to survive in Vietnam, when she came to America, it was that same mindset too.
Hmm.
How can I be resourceful? I have nothing, absolutely nothing, but I'm going to build a life for me and
Yeah.
my daughter by connecting with the right people, making sure that I learn from other folks, and just being very, very resourceful. And I did the exact same thing when I made that leap from social work to high tech too.
Yeah.
How can I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I'm going to make sure that I learn from the smartest folks in the room and connect. And that's why I'm a big connector. I'm always wanting to learn from other folks.
Yeah.
I the beauty of technology where it's so easy to connect with folks all
Yeah.
across the company. Like I probably only had one person out of the 14 years turn down my invitation, but for the most
Wow.
part, folks will make set aside time, 15 minutes just to chat. And I
Wow.
encourage a lot of the other folks who are new hires who come in to do that too, because um, resiliency is about building community.
Yeah.
I shared before that it was a survival skill.
Right.
You had to find your community in order to survive. And
Yeah.
I think it worked out for the best.
Yeah.
It,
No, that's beautiful. That's something that I'm like learning how to incorporate. So I do like recruitment mostly and like incorporating like AI or, like social media. I think it gives us like so much, yeah, just networks. And I keep in touch with like high school friends and yeah, people like I otherwise would have just like completely lost touch with. But yeah, I just feel like technology is like a great way. And yeah, I feel like we just have to embrace it in one way or another. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to get into like social media. It's just like taking too much, but it's also like beneficial and like can really help people connect with each other though.
yeah, yeah. Like I'm definitely not on TikTok. There's just so
Okay.
much there that I'm not up to date with.
Yeah, totally. So what gives you hope right now in the fight for justice and equity?
Hmm. I think seeing more people wanting to do the work, and just being open to talk about the hard stuff around justice and equity. Even with the work that I was doing around the inclusive leadership training, just seeing that, I felt like, wow, like when a bunch of folks would share with me, it's like, I want more of these conversations.
Yeah.
How can I mandate this in my own organization? I was like, wow, that's what I want to hear. So it was just really great to see that. But during the pandemic, I had shared earlier that I wanted to make sure that we weren't just checking the box on
Yeah.
inclusion. And so that's why that inclusive leadership training was just so key. I wanted to make sure it was a requirement for all the mentors and hiring managers and have that space to ask real questions and make sure that they were also learning from each other and not feel judged and be able to reflect on their own journey too. And I think that's a start right there. It gives folks a place to listen, reflect, and grow. And we need more of that. I feel like
Yeah.
we spend so much of our lives working on the go, especially, well, I'm in the Bay Area, so things are just so busy and hectic. So having that time to just reflect and listen and have some awareness, we don't make the time. And just having that space was just so important. I think that's definitely what gives me hope. When
Yeah.
people lean in with humility and intention, that's where change truly begins.
Wow, no, that's wonderful. And for listeners who want to take meaningful action in their communities or workplaces, where should they start?
Listening, I think
Yeah.
that's key. In the meetings that you're in, wherever you are, like whose voice is missing, like whose ideas are being overlooked, whose potential is being misjudged. I think sometimes um, the most powerful thing you can do is step back and make space and use your influence to open doors for others that are trying to walk through.
Mhm.
Um, and I saw this firsthand when I was running a program, and an SVP had offered to fund a position for her team member who was working on my team as a stretch assignment. Um, and she was willing to do that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing because she
Yeah.
saw how great she was. And I had shared about the impact that she was making. But then my then leader blocked that opportunity based on assumptions about this person, despite never having worked with her. And I had to speak up. And that moment, it reminded me that equity,
Yeah.
it isn't about just about shifting systems. It's about the choices that we make every day
Yeah.
and who we lift up, who we silence, and whether we're willing to challenge those biases in real time to make sure others are truly seen. I think that, yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, that's just the thing too, like those microaggressions that get people down. It's not just like the systems level, but also these like little interactions that we have with people that can, try to break people down too. So, yeah. Yeah. So, what does building a more just world together mean to you personally?
It's not just remembering that I'm not doing this alone.
Yeah.
Um, I was very fortunate that I had people who showed up, who spoke up, who spoke up and opened doors for me. And now it's my turn to pay it forward. Justice, it's not about the grand gestures.
Yeah.
It's really about the daily choices that we make and how we show up for one another. It's also about the proximity. It's about the partnerships and being persistent. And it starts with making space for others to lead and thrive.
Yeah. Wow, no, that's really cool. And yeah, just thank you so much for your time again and for this conversation. But before we wrap up, if people like to connect with you, how can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I guess that's all I have. Yeah,
No,
I
me
think
too.
I'm not public, so
No, me too.
yeah, everything else is private. But yeah, LinkedIn, I guess.
Yeah, no, pretty much for me too. That's how I connect with people professionally because yeah, my personal Facebook and Instagram is like pretty much just pictures of my daughter. So I think yeah, LinkedIn is where I like put more of the, I think social justice pieces and stuff too. So yeah, so thank you so much, Monique. It was really, really wonderful to talk with you and thank you again for your time. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This conversation, it really brought me back to why I do this work. So thank you for the
Yeah.
reminder. And I'm very excited for your podcast and really look forward to listening to your future guests.
No, no, I appreciate that. Well, thank you again, Monique. Thank you for being here and tuning in to Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community. Your presence in this movement matters. If today's conversation moved you, share it, talk about it, and keep the work going. Together, we're not just imagining change, we're making it. Until next time, stay bold, stay grounded, and stay in the fight.
Every time I feel so mad